everybody, happy Thursday. It's your favorite mission girl, Caitlin here, and I am finally going to do a video that was requested that I do way back in September. So, in September, I posted my reaction to the second trailer for Frozen 2, which is an amazing movie. And Alex Clemens, a viewer, commented, "Great vid. I think you should do Frozen 2 and then make a video comparing it to the Once Upon a Time storyline. I only watched the first season or so of OUAT, so I think it would be interesting to hear more about it, or even if somehow the two stories both work together." Great idea, and I'm finally sitting down because I finally think it's been long enough because there will be spoilers ahead. So sorry if you guys haven't seen Frozen 2 or if you haven't seen Once Upon a Time, more specifically Once Upon a Time Season 4, which is when they did the Frozen story arc. So let's start with Season 4 and see what they did with Elsa's powers. Okay, I've got lots of notes, so forgive me if I ramble or it seems like my attention is shifting back and forth because I have my tablet and I have my notes. I wanted to get the, Bob. I wanted to make sure that this was covered. So, like I said, we're going to start with Once Upon a Time, which was that kind of runaway smash hit that aired on ABC, which was basically Disney going, all right, let's take not just the fairy tales like Cinderella and Snow White and Sleeping Beauty. Let's also take stories and like Pinocchio, everything in our Disney archives. Let's take that and add in Robin Hood, King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, Frankenstein, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Basically any like fantasy type sci-fi kind of sci-fi story they could. Let's take all those characters and go, aha, what if there was a curse and they all lost their memories and got transported to the real world into this town that nobody knows about called Storybook, and it was all up to this one woman to come and save the day and break this curse. It was an amazing show. It sucked because it seemed like every single season that the town was getting a new curse put on them. But overall, it was an amazing show. And it was really interesting to see classic storybook characters in like new ways. I loved it. It was amazing. And of course, it came out at Frozen time. So this was when Frozen was at peak mania, people. Everybody and their mother was talking about Frozen. You loved it, you hated it, you couldn't get enough of Let It Go, or you were ready to let it go. But this brought up an interesting question. Would Disney and ABC put Frozen into Once Upon a Time because it was humongously popular? Well, the answer was yes. They were going to put it into Once Upon a Time. And then the second question was it going to be good? Me personally, I think they added in the Frozen characters beautifully. I think they meshed well. It was interesting, and the whole storyline was amazing. Basically, the whole storyline has to do with Elsa's powers and was actually the first half of Season 4. And Season 4 aired between 2014 and 2015. So first half of that season was all Frozen. It was awesome. It was really cool. And I think they picked really good actors and actresses to bring Anna, Elsa, and Kristoff and Hans to life. Now here's the thing. There was no Olaf. Olaf and Marshmallow were not a part of the Frozen arc. And I think we saw Sven for like a hot minute. Other than that, it was very much limited to the human characters. Now, like I said, this season had to do pretty much with Elsa's powers and Emma's powers. Because the big bad for the first half of the season was a character named Ingrid. Ingrid kind of showed up out of nowhere in Storybook as the ice cream shop owner, and she seemed very hammered in on Emma. As the season goes on, it was revealed that she had kind of a little bit of an obsession, even trying to become Emma's foster mother at one point, because she knew who Emma was, and she knew Emma was magical. Well, why did she know Emma was magical? Well, because she has a magical past herself. You see, Ingrid, or the Snow Queen, was actually Elsa's aunt. And this is where the origin story of Elsa's powers come into play. You see, Ingrid was the eldest of the 3 royal sisters of Arendelle. There was Ingrid, Helga, and Gerda. Now, Gerda is Elsa and Anna's mother, and I actually really love that they named her Gerda because it is kind of a tribute to the classic Snow Queen story by Hans Christian Andersen, upon which Frozen is based. Now, the story goes, as we learn throughout the season, in particular, one episode is kind of where we learn all of this, that we learn about this. It is called The Snow Queen. Like, literally, this episode is called The Snow Queen, and it aired on November 9th, 2014. And this gave us all of Ingrid's backstory and also more information about Elsa and Anna herself, more particularly Elsa. It is revealed in this episode, Snow Queen, that Ingrid herself has the same powers as Elsa. Ingrid can also make ice and snow magic. Unlike Elsa, her parents didn't know. It is revealed that the only people who knew about Ingrid's gift are her sisters, Helga and Gerda. And they learned that Ingrid had this ability, this magic, when Ingrid stopped a kidnapping attempt. Now, of course, Ingrid, was freaked out. I mean, wouldn't you be freaked out if all of a sudden, look, there's icicles and snow? I would be slightly freaked out, and then I'd think it's awesome because, so she's freaking out. Her sisters say, no, you're not a monster. And the three sisters then decide to make a vow to never reveal that Ingrid has these powers. They seal this vow by using the yellow ribbon on the kite they were playing with to make 3 bracelets. Awesome. It's cool. It seems like Ingrid, Helga, and Gerda had the same tight relationship that Anna and Elsa had. But things kind of go downhill because they don't really tell anybody and it's just those 3 girls. Ingrid's not really learning how to control her powers very well, and it all comes to a head, in a way, at the 70th birthday party for their father, at which Gerda and Helga are in attendance, where Helga is being paid court by the Duke of Weselton, or Rieselton. Yeah, the dude who can't dance. That dude. They decide to go and find Ingrid, who has been hiding in her room because she has become kind of a loner, cutting herself off, in a way similar to a way that Elsa's parents in Frozen did to her by kind of isolating her from the rest, isolating her from her sister in a way, and then isolating Arendelle from the rest of the world. When they get to Ingrid's room, they find Ingrid is packing and getting ready to run away because she made it snow in her bedroom, and she's afraid that she will lose control and she will just destroy everything, and she is a monster. So basically, Ingrid has a breakdown. Helga and Gerda are like, no, you're not a monster. You're our sister. We love you. You could never hurt anybody. You are a kind person. That's not enough for Ingrid, and so the 3 sisters decide to travel to the Enchanted Forest, where they meet, dun-dun-dun-dun, Rumpelstiltskin himself, the great wheeler and dealer of secrets and artifacts in Once Upon a Time. Or the Dark One, if you will. Rumpelstiltskin has something that he can give the sisters for them to use for Ingrid. A pair of gloves. These gloves will help tramp down, compress and light and stop a little bit, Ingrid's powers. Gloves sound familiar? That's because in one of the first scenes in Frozen, we see Elsa's father give her a pair of gloves to wear as he tells her that as they speak that line that has become kind of synonymous, conceal, don't feel. That's a line we kind of hear a lot of, and it's also even mentioned in the hit song, Let It Go. He gives them gloves. He also offers them an urn. Now, this urn is not just an ordinary urn. This urn is magic, and it will allow Helga and Gerda to trap Ingrid. Basically, they use the urn, they trap Ingrid inside, and they never let her out, just in case. Helga and Gerda, not so big on this idea, because in return for giving them the urn and the gloves, Rumpelstiltskin wants the yellow ribbons that each sister wears around their wrist. Like I said, Helga and Gerda, not big fans. They believe they can work together and protect Ingrid and keep her powers from getting under control. Ingrid, on the other hand, does not have that same belief in herself and says they need to do this. So the sisters trade the ribbons for the urn and the gloves, and it seems like, yay, everything's going Ingrid's way. She can finally come out in society. It will be awesome. Not so much. the Duke of Weselton, he's not particularly choosy about which Arendelle princess he goes out with. And when he sees Ingrid one day sitting in a gazebo by himself, he decides to seduce her. But she rejects him. However, they are discovered by Helga, the middle sister he is currently courting. The Duke of Weselton, or Weaselton, decides to live up to his name of being a weasel and lie and tell Helga that Ingrid was the one doing the seducing. She was the one coming on to me. I wasn't doing anything. Luckily, Helga's smart. She knows Ingrid would never do something like that, so she refuses to believe the Duke, Weselton, and then not only does that, she rejects his offer of marriage. Well, this makes him mad, and he reveals that he discovered Ingrid has this magical power to make ice and snow and freeze stuff. And he says if Helga does not marry him, or he's not really choosy, like I said, if he doesn't marry a princess of Arendelle, particularly Helga or maybe Ingrid, he will reveal to the entire world. And remember, Helga and Gerda are the only two that know about Ingrid's power until this guy comes along and says, hey, I know about it. He threatens to reveal their secret to the entire world, and which means, to the sisters' greatest fear, that everybody will misunderstand Ingrid and automatically think she's a monster and hunt her down. And that is something they were desperately trying not to do. Ingrid is rightfully terrified of this. And for the first time since saving her and her sisters as kids, uses her power to defend herself. However, if you see Frozen, you knew Weselton is still there because in Once Upon a Time, he does something really low and horrible. He pulls Helga in front of him at the last minute, and it's Helga that gets frozen by Ingrid. This guy then runs off like the coward he is, leaving Ingrid totally traumatized, only making it worse when Helga then shatters. It gets worse. Gerda, the youngest, Elsa and Anna's mom, then discovers Ingrid on the ground among the shattered pieces of their sister Helga. Ingrid desperately tries to tell Gerda the truth about what happened, but Gerda decides not to believe her, and then uses the urn that they were given that Ingrid has been carrying around with her to trap Ingrid in this urn. And then Gerda then goes to Grandpappy Troll and asks him to create a potion that will make everyone in Arendelle forget that Helga and Ingrid even existed. Grandpappy warns her. Magic has a price, but she insists he does it. He does it. Years later, she's married, Queen of Arendelle, has two beautiful girls, Elsa and Anna. Elsa looks just like Ingrid and has ice and snow magic. But of course, Gerda, like everybody else, doesn't remember Ingrid. So they have no clue where Elsa's powers come from. And that is why they say in Once Upon a Time, Elsa's and Anna's parents were on that boat. They were actually traveling to the enchanted forest, woods, whatever, to see Rumpelstiltskin to discover the truth about Anna and Elsa's powers. Well, just Elsa's powers. Oh my gosh, my brain is working overtime. So, yeah, that in a nutshell is pretty much Elsa's powers, and Ingrid eventually gets free. She freezes Arendelle. She traps Anna traps Elsa in the jar in accident, and blah, 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 and that's how they get to Once Upon a Time and meet Emma and Snow and David and all the other characters. But pretty much the origin of Elsa's powers in Once Upon a Time is that they're genetic. At the very least, Elsa had the powers, but before them, her oldest aunt also had the powers. So, like I said, Once Upon a Time, the origins of Elsa's powers are simply that they're genetic. And in Once Upon a Time, that's kind of a common thread. Anybody with magic, like special abilities, stuff like that, is said to be genetic. In the cases of children that come from parents who don't have magic themselves, Those children are then said to be the product of true love, and therefore they have magic. But in most cases where a child has magic, it's generally because their parents had magic, their grandparents had magic, some ancestor, aunt, uncle in their family had magic, and so magic is genetic and passed down through the family line. And sometimes the kids, it's like some kids will have brown eyes, some kids will have blue eyes, sometimes an eye color skips a generation, hair color, whatever, and it's the same thing with magic. So once upon a time, they went with the origin of Elsa's powers being genetic. Like her aunt had them, she had them, and maybe somewhere down the line, some of her ancestor has had them, but nobody really knows because, hey, their mom made a potion, wiped everyone's memories, and so now nobody even really knows. So that was the origin of Elsa's powers in Once Upon a Time. However, what happens in Once Upon a Time is not considered canon for Disney movies. So that origin of Elsa's powers is not considered canon. What is considered canon is the origin of Elsa's powers in Frozen 2, which we will now talk about. Which Frozen 2 was a great movie. I like it slightly better than Frozen. I know a lot of people say it was good. It wasn't as good as Frozen. I do like it slightly better than Frozen. Anyway, on to the origins of Elsa's powers as told to us in Frozen 2. And it's a little bit more simpler and a little bit more easier to understand. Forgive me if I mispronounce names. So basically, the origin of Elsa's powers is simply put, they're a gift. That's it. There's no genetics. There's no science involved. Elsa's powers are simply a gift. Because when their grandfather, King Agnar, no, not King Agnar, that was their father. Their grandfather, King Reynard, was trying to build a dam between the Enchanted Forest, which is why I think I kept calling it the Enchanted Forest in Once Upon a Time, was trying to build a dam between the Enchanted Forest and Arendelle to block out the neighboring tribe of North Aldera. He kind of started a battle and a war, and in that fight, he was killed, and a wall of mist appeared. And his son, Agnar, was nearly lost in that mist. However, a young woman named, oh gosh, I'm not going to pronounce this at all, Udin. Disney, stop giving characters names I can't pronounce. Anyway, a member of this tribe saved his life, but in doing so, cut herself off from her own people. Many years pass, and now Adun is married to Agnar, and they have 2 daughters, Anna and Elsa. And Elsa is born with ice and snow magic. However, during the course of Frozen 2, Elsa's powers grow, Arendelle is frozen, she, Anna, Olaf, Kristoff, and Sven go on this journey and discover the truth about their powers and discover their mother's tribe. Some soldiers from Arendelle who are trapped by the mist and are not too happy with the tribe, but now they're going to have to work together, you know, that thing. But we're talking about Elsa's origins. And they discover these spirits and some legends and stories, and Elsa goes on her own personal journey by herself because this is something she needs to do on her own. And in the process, discovers that her magic was a gift from nature because of her mother Idun's selfless act in saving their father Agnar. And in doing so, cutting herself off from, like I said, her family and friends. So her mother's selfless act was such an inspiration to nature that they gave Elsa these powers. And in doing so, they made Elsa a 5th spirit. And as that 5th spirit, Elsa's job is to unite people in the magic of nature. So yeah, that was it. That was how Elsa's powers came to be in Frozen 2, is that they are simply put a gift. That's it. That's everything. Her mother's selfless act was what gifted Elsa her powers. So her powers are indeed a gift, which is amazing, which is cool when you consider the fact that in the first movie, Elsa didn't start out thinking her powers were a gift. And even at the beginning of Frozen 2, she's struggling with them. And now and at the end, they were a gift all along. So yeah, there you have it. Once upon a time, Elsa's powers were due to her genetics. It ran in the family. Frozen 2, Elsa's powers were a gift because of her mother's selfless act. And there is the link between the two different origin stories. Elsa's mother. And once upon a time, her mother Gerda is the youngest princess of Arendelle, and it's Gerda's oldest sister Ingrid who has the powers of ice and snow that Elsa will later inherit. In Frozen 2 is her mother Idune's selfless act that gives Elsa her powers. So that is really interesting that in both origin stories, the one that is canon and the one that is not, Elsa's powers are because of her mother, or at least her mother's family. So really, you could say Elsa's powers in both instances come from her mom. In one case, literally, because like I said, genetics. But yeah, that's it. Those are the two origin stories. If you ask me if I had to pick a favorite, I would definitely say the origin of Elsa's powers being a gift in Frozen 2 is my favorite. I think it is lovely. I think it is beautiful. The idea of genetics, I really, since I am such a Star Wars fan, and I know I shouldn't be talking about Star Wars fan doing this idea that anybody could be a Jedi is really what is cool. And so, yeah, it was a good origin story in Once Upon a Time. I think they were able to dive into it a little bit more. I mean, there's a lot of background and little tidbits I did not talk about because I did not want this to be an uber long rambling video. But I think Elsa's powers have more meaning and are a little bit more magical and cool when you just look at the origins of her powers in Frozen 2, where her powers are a gift because of her mom doing this totally selfless and courageous act of saving their dad, and knowing that by doing so she probably is cutting herself off from her family forever, and they explain that's the reason why their parents perished, is they were trying to get back to her mother's tribe to see if they could learn more about Elsa's powers so they could understand and help her control them. But yeah, I really loved Elsa. I think Elsa's origin story in Frozen 2 is better. I think it's sweeter, but I will say that I think Once Upon a Time, because it is a TV show, they were able to go into a little bit more detail. But I was not a big fan of Elsa's powers just being, it's because of her family. It's genetics. Her aunt had it, and it skipped, and she had it. So, yeah. Like the origin story in Frozen 2 better. So, with that being said, that's it. So, let me know down below what you guys think about these two different versions of the origins of Elsa's powers. Did you like the one in Once Upon a Time or the one in Frozen 2 better? And what do you think about the link being Elsa's mother? So let me know down below, and let me know if you guys want to see more movies like this and more movies. Let me know if you guys want to see more videos like this and what topics you'd like me to cover. Tomorrow I am planning on posting so this will be posted today, and tomorrow I am planning on posting a third video to make up for the fact I'm not doing a regular vlog this week, and it will be a trailer reaction to the new trailer for Morbius starring Jared Leto. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for sticking through this rambling video. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And if you feel up to it, go ahead and hit that notification bell. I try to upload a video at least once a week. And some weeks they'll be regular vlogs, and some weeks they may be short videos like this. But yeah. And also don't forget to comment down below what you guys think of this video, which origin story you liked, and what you guys would like to see me do on the channel in 2020. So thank you so much for watching. I'm sending you all lots of love, hugs, and prayers. Stay safe, stay sane, and hey, while you're at it, why don't you go build a snowman? Bye, guys.